Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Agricultural Preserve Advisory Committee meeting. Today is July 10th, and it is 9 a.m. And can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning. We're going to start with Sergio Ricardo,
Present.
Stephanie Stark,
Here.
David Lackey.
Here.
Alex.
Here.
And then Royce Larson is absent as of now. So we do have a quorum though.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Teresa. And also wanted to see if there's anyone here from the public who'd like to speak on an item that is not listed on the agenda.
If you're online and wish to speak on an item not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Not seeing any public comment.
Okay, very good. We will close the public comment, at least general. It'll come up again for each item. We'll solicit public comment. Okay, and let's take a look at the minutes from our June 12th, 2025 meeting. And do any members have any comments or suggested edits or would like to make a motion?
So Madam Chair, on item number 3 in the minutes and the action, we need to put in who was the second to the motion.
Good catch. Thank you for that comment. Any other comments or motion?
Is there any reason to have number 2, then number 1? Items, order?
Yeah. Did we move them around? Is that why?
Move
Yeah,
number
on the
1
agenda.
continued item.
Yeah. Is that how we typically do that if we move an item? It's listed as the agenda?
Usually we would keep them as they were listed, but I know you had requested for it to be moved as the continue item on the minutes.
Yeah.
And I could change it, the number.
Yeah. I don't know
I
if,
was just curious.
yeah,
I'll ask and then I'll correct it as the correct way to do it, if that's okay.
I don't know if there's any input from council on that as far as, no, okay. I think it's a little more clear myself if you do, you're looking at the agenda and then you move it back up.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with.
Okay.
with
All right.
Not being in the order.
Okay.
Curious.
So do you want me to leave it like that and just
Yeah, I
correct
would
the
just-
numbering
I would just leave it as is.
as this? Yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair, just
Mm.
quick typo. I think it's on number 6. The action, the last sentence of the action is missing, I think, the word found. APAC also found that contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It seems like it's
Missing a verb. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think it's usually we say APEC finds that contract meets ongoing. That's usually what we do to be consistent. Any other comments? Those are all good ones. Yep.
I would move that we approve the minutes of June 12th as amended.
I'll second.
Then we'll start with roll call. Sergio Ricardo,
I will abstain.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
And then vote carries 3-0.
Hey,
Just to clarify, I
And then
wasn't at the meeting.
Yes.
yes, so you are abstaining. Okay. But we have enough three votes to carry the motion. Very good. Thank you for that. And that brings us to agenda management. I wanted to see if we could let's see, it was item number 5, discussion of APAC chair. I just think we should trail that under APAC discussion items. I know it's a continued discussion, but that's my suggestion. Or is there a motion that we need
Well, I
to
think you
take?
were looking for a motion.
Yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and trail it.
A new item.
Yeah, I agree. Let's trail it after item number 7.
Okay.
Okay, and that takes us, any other comments from anyone online or here at the meeting present who would like to continue an item? And if so, please state the item number, your name, and the reason for the continuance. Okay. No one online? Okay, very good. So that leads us to our continued items. And our first one is item number 1 and 2. I'm sorry.
Mr.
Oh, yes, we have Royce joining us. Good morning, Royce. Okay, that's okay. So we have item number, so for the record, Royce is joining us at 9:06 a.m. And we have the continued items 1 and 2, which we can take those together. It's for Rancheria LLC, and it is for the contract number 69AP033. And the next item number 2 is 68AP011, and this is relates to a compliance issue. We had sent a letter to the representatives from Rancheria LLC. In this case, as we reviewed it 2 months ago I think it was, I think it was 2 months ago, that we had, on May 8th, and we had Mr. Larry Lair, who was present at the meeting, and we discussed maybe exploring opportunities for the county to address. This is related to a condemnation of the property many years ago. And Mr. Lair expressed at that time, and then also in a follow-up letter in the packet, that he's hoping that we can, the county can take a look at another option at the time. We can make an exception for this. It's an unusual circumstance. So don't know if Mr. Lair is here or a representative from the property for item number 1 and 2, Rancheria LLC. Okay, maybe not. Oh, he is. Okay, welcome, Mr. Lair. I didn't know if there's anything you'd like to say before we get started.
No, again, just to restate what we discussed 2 months ago and in the letter
Mhm.
that you have before you, is just, this is something that occurred over a quarter century ago. Nothing's changed on the property. It's all the result of actions the county took. And my feeling is that any actions that should have occurred as part of that condemnation and any cost related to that should have been part of the consideration of the condemnation, and to address it at this time should not fall upon the landowners. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lair. So I'll bring it back to the committee. Did any committee members explore any options? The county, I'm trying to recall now if it was going to be something that was one of our members or.
So I did follow up on, so because the boundaries changed, one of the issues was that they would need to get a replacement contract. And so obviously there's a fee for that. So I looked into whether or not planning and development has the ability to waive the fees. And we do not. Only the board has the ability to waive any fees. So that's the information that I was able to get.
Yeah, that's,
I think-
it's the same case with the surveyor's office fee schedule. Only board can waive those fees. And I don't know if it is important, but I'd just like to clarify that the condemnation was done on behalf of SB-CAG, County Association of Government. So it was not only the county involved, there was state as well, and perhaps some other agencies. Just as information.
And in addition to the boundaries changing, I think one of the main issues here is that one of the contracts goes from non-prime to prime, making the requirements a little more restrictive. And so we would have to look at that if we are going to make an exception and say, you know, that the contracts can stay the way they are.
Yeah, thank you, Sergio, for bringing that up, because I think that is probably the one area that we do have, you know, a little bit more discretion on in terms of how we would look at that issue.
Yeah, I'm just looking over our minutes from the May meeting, and there were two things we were looking at. One was to explore the designation as prime versus non-prime, and then also potential waivers or application cost reductions for replacement contracts. Are there any other opportunities that the board can think of for the applicant to consider, or perhaps?
Well, I mean, I guess the only, you know, one of the other options that, I mean, as stated, this, you know, effectively occurred
Mhm.
25 years ago. And it came to our attention recently. And I would probably seek council's guidance on this, but I mean, one option is to take no action. It's just to, it is what it is. Still, at some time it may come up, but if it's been functioning as an ag preserve contract, technically the boundaries have not been adjusted, but if it hadn't come to our attention, it would have still been the same situation. So
Mhm.
if we just had no action on it, it would continue as it would be, and at some point it may, if they come in for an application on the property, it would probably come up again. It
Yeah.
doesn't resolve the issue, but it doesn't force the issue either.
I see, yeah.
I don't know that I would be comfortable with that because there's so many things that have changed, including the parcel numbers. The assessor's office has already assigned new parcel numbers for these parcels. I would probably make the suggestion that we make a decision here, and I think I would be okay allowing the contracts to remain with the same contract numbers. But then I would ask, maybe, I don't know if it's a question for county council or Alex here. I think that we need to have a recording maybe of an amendment to the original contract with current legal description. I think the surveyor's office must have described when this condemnation was recorded, they must have recorded a new legal description for the properties, correct? And then maybe just have an amendment to the original contract.
Yeah, again, as I mentioned, it's not exactly the county that was the agency condemning the property. It was the SB-CAG, Santa Barbara Association of Governments. And I'm not sure who handled the legal descriptions and preparing for the condemnation. I would suspect that it was the state. Because the condemnation, it was on state's behalf, I believe, to widen the highway out there, 154 and 101. So I would need to look into the property, but basically, I'm not sure if the property has a new description that reflects the condemned portions along the highways. Could be that, if it stayed in the family forever, that, nothing happened, if there was no recording, any transfers within the family. So that would require preparing a legal description. I know there was a survey, recent survey on one parcel, a record survey got recorded. That could be a little bit helpful, but yeah, it would require research and, typically a county surveyor does not do that function. Or, re-recording the amendment.
I'm just, I'm thinking that it needs to be recognized that we as a committee are saying, yes, we are okay with the original contracts to continue, or no, we don't think that they should continue as they are. Maybe just an action to approve them as they are. I just don't like the idea of just dropping it like
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, I think Royce, did you have something you wanted to say?
Well, I just kind of questions and thoughts. The family didn't ask to have that taken from them. It was taken, so it was out of their control. And my feelings is we ought to let that continue now, but looking into the future, if they sold that parcel, then it would no longer qualify to the new owners. And do we need to worry about that, or would that be down the road and out of our hands? And
So you're thinking perhaps we kind of freeze it for now, and then while it's still under the same ownership, nothing's changed with the family. But if it were to sell, could that be the time where we address it? I see. Okay, thank you for that thought. And I also was thinking, David, you had said that the board would be, I know there's two separate issues. One's, about the, I guess, could it qualify as a prime contract now? But for the fee issue, how would one go about asking the board if they could waive that? How would that work? Is that something that, I hear what you're saying, Royce, but if we did go forward with our typical process, could we write in the board letter something like the committee suggests, because of the circumstances, that the board waive the fees and there would be some sort of refund, or how would that work?
And to follow up with the same question, if the state was the one that was requesting a new contract, you wouldn't be charging a fee for the state, right? They're exempt from fees, the state. So let's pretend
Well, the state wouldn't
SBK.
be eligible to have a contract. Is that what you're saying?
Right. So I'm just, my thinking is that this whole situation was created by the state. So let's pretend that they are the ones that are requiring these new contracts to be created. No, follow me? I'm just
I mean,
trying to figure out a way to
Make this work.
make this work.
Yeah, one way is what Madam Chair suggested, to perhaps bring it to the board to waive the fees, and then we can handle the rest of it that way. As far as the
So
process.
just bring it to the board not even a recommendation for replacement contracts, but just say waive the fee.
Yes, and that way
Huh.
it could work. I know, like in my department, it's really hard to waive any fee.
Yeah.
Because of, of the procedures that we have. So-
Right.
And I'm sure the planning is similar. Now it's very tight accounting and project management, so it's really hard to do anything without, going through the
Yes.
procedures. So one way would be to bring it to the board, waive the fees for the project together with the replacement contract, and then that way we could do it internally without any.
Yeah. And also, I was just thinking, I mean, has this happened before where
It happens so, not all the time, but very often, and.
but where the
No,
condemnation and it's contracted land and
Yes,
that,
yes, we had a case, if you remember, recently by Floridale Avenue, we had a similar situation where county actually acquired a portion of a property and they had to go through the replacement.
the county owned it though,
Yes.
but not a
acquired
private
portion.
party.
No, no,
Okay.
the private party owned the property, but then the county came for widening of the road.
Uh-huh.
Took a strip of the property along the westerly line, I believe. But yeah, so.
Did the applicant have to pay a replacement contract
I don't
fee?
think so. I think we handled that recently. It was Public Works involved, that's why, and it
Okay.
was more recent project by the Florida Bridge. And I think we had replaced that contract. So I would look into the
Okay.
minutes or.
That's a good idea, in that case. And council, did you have any thoughts on that potential pathway of if we were to go to the board for replacement contracts to clean this up, but state in the board letter, we're requesting or suggesting that the application fee get waived for replacement contracts?
The fee waiver is generally done through planning and development, and
Oh, okay.
they recommend it up through the board, or does the applicant go through the board for the fee waiver, David?
It was just a question of, I asked the question, can the department waive the fees? And they said, no, only the board. I didn't follow up on what would the process be.
Because APAC is not putting fees on the department, it's putting fees on.
Uh-huh.
So you can say in your board letter, we do recommend this for the following reasons, but technically it's planning and development that's charging those fees. APAC doesn't have a fee structure.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could, if that was one of the recommendations, I think following up on council's guidance, that APEC could request that planning and development request that the board waive the application fees for the new contract because of these reasons.
And then-
Presumably, it would be something that they would place on the administrative agenda
Yeah.
and have a board letter just describing what that would be.
Would you go to the board with the two together at the same time?
No, I think you would probably do that first.
Uh-huh.
And then if they weren't interested, you wouldn't allow them to submit the application.
I see.
Even that way, I mean, it focuses on the planning and development application fees, but there's still costs for the applicant, I'm assuming, to go through that. I mean, they need to submit a
Title
new
report.
title report and other things, and
Yeah.
then someone the time to do all of the submittal along the process of the information. So that it wouldn't, there would still be some either time and, materials cost to the applicant to then submit some of the required information.
I just want to follow up on maybe recording an amendment to the original. And I'm looking at county council because then what I'm thinking, to avoid having to rewrite a new legal description, which the surveyor's office is saying that, that it could take a while too. I'm thinking if a recording of an amendment, just take the old contract and we exclude the legal description and just say we are amending this contract to identify the parcel property by this new parcel number, the new APN that the assessor just created for these parcels. And that's the amendment. And that's it. You just have it recorded and the contract remains active and it's just now identified by the new parcel number that was created recently because of this condemnation.
And so would that need to be approved by the board? Or,
I think so.
Effectively, that's already happened. Right? I mean, we have many old APAC contracts in this county that have had adjustments made to their APN numbers over time. So we don't go back and generally amend those agreements to say it was APN number 111, now it's APN number 112. So by going back and I don't believe there's any I don't believe that would fix anything.
Well, there's still option that David suggested to do nothing, because the assessor's numbers change all the time with different reasons. And Sergio, you did mention something about Prime? Right,
Yes, so one of the
which
parcels,
one?
one of the contracts is a prime contract, and I'll tell you. Was non-prime, over 100 acres, because of the condemnation, because of the acreage that was taken, it became under 100 acres, so it became prime. And so for that reason, I would, again, insist that we at least recognize that we're going to make an exception to the requirements that, that go with prime contracts. Yeah, it's
Just to elaborate, I mean, yeah, I mean, I was interested in, well, kind of what Royce, but also what Sergio responded to my comment of one option of doing nothing. It's doing nothing plus. It sounded like from the assessor's portion, there might be a pathway just through our motion in our action to acknowledge however we land on it, and that may be sufficient versus then, going another pathway of having to go to the board or amend the
Correct.
contract or something. And so
yeah,
I would be interested in pursuing that line if you think that would be a possible way to address from the assessor's point of view the concerns. Just
yeah, just yeah, I can identify the contract as a prime contract, but then the assessors has a portion where we see any comments about the contract, so I can just say that the committee here recognizes that it's a prime contract, but it's still meeting the requirements. Meeting,
on that, yeah, I think on that point, just to
making an exception.
put the two, I would actually prefer to flip it and say that it was because of the action of condemnation that resulted in this technically having to qualify as prime, but it still has functioned as a non-prime and meets that qualification for purposes of ag preserve.
And kind of like what Royce, what you were saying is, I think Larry or Mr. Lair, if you're still on the line, it's kind of like that's what we do now. But if anyone who currently owns the property comes forward with a proposal of development or any kind of, that's going to bring this issue up again. We're just kicking the can down the road for now. But if it does come, someone does come forward, whether it's the current owner or future owner, it will bring this issue up.
And I want to be able to see the comments from today
Yeah.
and say, okay, there is something that needs to be reviewed here. Otherwise, it may just be, ignored. Yeah, because the contract runs with the land.
Right.
So if, like Roy said, if it sells, it just keeps going. If the new owner never records an assumption of contract, as often happens, then we're never going to know that that there's a new owner and we should have picked it up.
Yeah, and I just am curious about that other case that we talked about, and I guess that would need a little homework on that to see what did we do? Did we waive any fees that you're aware of? Because David, you're talking about, it's not just the planning and development fees, but there's other, incurred fees from this process. Like, how did we?
Remember that case,
I
David?
don't remember that one, but kind of a different version of that. Remember, maybe it was last year, maybe even 2 years ago, there was this lot line adjustment in the city of Guadalupe that the parcel was partly in the city and partly in the county. They contracted, say what they wanted to clean that up. And so it's kind of going through LAFCO because part of the property, they had to adjust the actual city boundaries. And so they had to go through the LAFCO process. I think one of APEC's, we were reviewing a lot line adjustment in the contract and And I think we had recommended that condition of the lot line adjustment is that they also pay for the cost for
Yeah.
the replacement contract, that the city would pay for the cost. I think at least, I mean, it was part of the conversation. It was more current. I mean, 20 years ago, it just wasn't part of that transaction. That's not something that someone highlighted. And so I don't think it was intentional. It just was something that wasn't captured. If it was in, maybe if, it was a project today that involved a likely, condemnation of land by Caltrans or something, and, that might be something that is more, it would be captured today either by the planner or by us if we saw it, so. Yeah, I don't know that, I'm not familiar with the public works. I mean, I remember the project because that was by the San Ynez River, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, yeah, I'll have to look into the legal, into the APN and see how the legal description, if it is a replacement contract.
So if we pursue what we talked about, Sergio, what you're bringing up, and we just drop it from the agenda, or what, do we immortalize it or memorialize what we've talked about in the motion? What are you thinking?
I think maybe a motion to drop it with additional language. I'm, kind of,
Gesturing to
what-
David to.
yeah,
Mhm.
articulate something. right?
Yes. And just while we're kind of thinking that over, is there anyone from the public here today who'd like to speak on this item?
Okay, if you're online and wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand.
Okay.
We do not have any public
Okay,
comment.
we'll close public comment for this item. And Mr. Laird, did you have any input on what we were discussing here today? We're looking at the possibility of, dropping this on the agenda with some additional language in the motion so that if it comes up in the future, we'll have some sort of a trail to follow that explains that it did come to the committee, but at the time, we are just not going to take a motion. That way you won't incur any costs. It doesn't resolve the issue, but it will likely get brought up again in the future if the owner, whether it be the Buell family or a future owner, decides to pursue any kind of development or even possibly even a change in ownership, doing an assumption.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that would be my preference, is to leave things as they are and subject to being looked at again if there's any changes. Again, this land's been in the family since 1867. There's no intention to ever sell it. It's still, the beneficiary of the trust is still a descendant of the Buell family, and all intent is to continue as is and continue it as cattle grazing as it's been since 1867.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lair. Any other questions for Mr. Lair? Okay, bring it back to the committee.
So Sergio, you were mentioning that the assessor parcel numbers had changed. Are the correct assessors or the current assessors parcels numbers described in the project description for each of these?
No, the agenda items are still showing the old APNs. I can provide the new ones if.
Yes.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, for item number 1, contract number 69 AP033. The new APN number is 099-040-029. So it went from 24 to 29. That's that one. For item number 2, contract number 68-AP-011. That contract is comprised of multiple parcels, but the parcel affected was parcel 099-040-022, and that number is now has been corrected to 099-040-027. 22 to 27. Those are the,
Thank you for that.
Maybe just a process question. So because there's kind of different issues, the non-prime versus prime really relates to item number 1. Do we want to take that separately first as a motion?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
it should.
I agree.
I'd make a motion for item number 1 that APAC drop this item from consideration and include the following information related to contract 69 AP 00033, that the current updated assessor's parcel number for the contract is 099-040-029. And that as a result of the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments judgment, the final order of condemnation, May 22nd, 2000, the boundaries and acreage of the contract were reduced. And that, however, the contract and premises continues to function and meet the requirements for non-prime grazing contract, regardless of the reduction in acreage.
And I would amend that motion just to include the instrument number, so we have a record of that.
So the instrument
The
number
motion.
was 2000-003-0688.
I second that motion. Any discussion on that before we take a vote? Okay, vote please.
Well, Royce Larson,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey,
Aye.
Alex,
Aye.
and then vote carries 5-0.
Hey, thank you.
So for item number 2, I guess since we're going to introduce it, we should ask if there's any
Yeah.
public comment.
Is there any public comment on item number 2?
Okay, if you're online and wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any public comment.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, David.
So I'd move that APAC find, or that APAC drop from consideration item number 2. However, adding the following information regarding contract 68 AP 011. That the contract consists of multiple assessor's parcel numbers, and that one of the parcel numbers 099-040-022 has changed to a current assessor's parcel number 099-040-027. And that the contract boundaries had changed as a result of Santa Barbara County Association of Governments judgment and final order of condemnation recorded on May 22nd, 2000 per instrument number 2000-003-0688. And that the contract 68 AP 011 continues to operate as a cattle grazing operation and meets ongoing eligibility requirements for the uniform rules.
Second.
We'll do roll call. Royce Larson,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
And then Alex.
Aye.
And the vote carries 5-0.
Okay, very good. I want to just loop back with you, Mr. Lair. Any questions about what we just did, the committee on the 2 items 1 and 2?
No,
They'll be sorry, go ahead.
I would just say no, that I understand that and I appreciate your consideration.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for bringing this to our attention in your letter. And it'll be stated in the final motion, or the minutes will be approved at the next meeting. So,
Very good. Thank you again.
Madam Chair, is it possible to send Mr. Lair a copy of the approved minutes?
yeah, let's do that if you
Okay.
could, Teresa. We'll send you a copy of the final minutes, Mr. Lair, so you have that for your files.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, this brings us to item number 3. It's Ballard Ranch LLC, and this is for contract number 16 AP 017. And this is also a continuing item. We're addressing compliance. We sent a letter to Ballard Ranch LLC, and also kind of pulls in item number 4 at the same time. Those are related cases. So just wanted to see if there's anyone here, for a representative, who'd like to speak on this item.
If you're online and you're here to speak on this item, you could go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, we do not have anybody, no one online for this item.
Thank you, Teresa. I need to get to my SharePoint here.
Sorry, Teresa, could you go to the box folder and just bring up the letter that was sent for it's the first item, which is contract 17. And maybe just to kind of go back, and I think this has kind of a long history. That the 2 contracts are owned by the same owner, and they're adjacent to each other. I think it was actually on contract 18, which is the one to the east. There was an application probably over 2 years ago for a proposed winery. And then one of the issues at that point was looking at the planted acreage of vineyards to support the winery to meet the uniform rule requirements. And part of it was going to come from grapes on the other contract. And so there was the look at the commercial ag production requirements for both properties. That was sort of the question. The landowner was going to propose to relocate some vines to, I believe, contract 18, and then plant some additional grapes. And so they had requested, for the lead time to do that. And since I think it was out of season to remove the grapes, they had to wait and then replant those. And then they had a purchase order to get some additional grapes. It requested a 1-year continuance just to let that process occur. So APAC continued the item for 1 year, and that was sort of the tickler date. I think they were to come back in June of 2024. Or I think that was when that discussion happened, and they were to come back in April, I think, of this year. And so we hadn't heard any information from the landowner, sent out the 60-day letter. I don't know if the chair had heard any communications once that 60-day letter was sent. That the landowners, during that continuance period, they withdrew their application for the winery, so that's no longer, an active permit. So we're kind of at the situation currently where we haven't received any additional information from the landowner on meeting the commercial agri requirements for either of the contracts.
Yes, for the record, yeah, I have not, since sending the letter, have not had any further communication with Ballard Ranch. I don't know if any other members have spoken to any of the representatives or the owner. No? Okay. Very good. So, is there, just to double check, no one here today to speak on this item? Representative or owner? Okay. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to speak on this item?
Sir, if you're online and wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand.
Okay.
Not seeing any public comment. I also did want to make a note that I also emailed the property owner a copy of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So this is the typical process. The first letter we sent was the notice to appear letter, and then this is the second letter, the 60-day letter. So we're following our process. I did receive, I send all letters certified and through the U.S. Postal Service, and then a return receipt requested, and that's the green piece of paper. I get confirmation that the letter was delivered, so, and I have not made further contact with them, so. Yeah, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, I can make the motion. I'll make a motion to find contract number 16-AP-017. To find that contract to be not in non-compliance with Uniform Rule 2-3.2, and that we find it, and that we recommend non-renewal of the contract. Is there anything?
I'd say recommend the Board of Supervisors.
Recommend the Board of Supervisors that we put it in non-renewal.
Question on the motion, entertain an amendment just to add reference to the 60-day letter that when you talk about non-compliance with the rule as stated in 60-day letter dated April 29th, 2025.
I amend my motion to include what Mr. Lackey just stated.
Okay, I second the motion. Any discussion? Okay, we have a roll call, please.
Okay, Bruce Larson,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
And then Alex.
Aye.
And the vote carries 5-0.
Okay, and that was for item number 3. So item number 4, we have to take, I think, separate motions for these. And let's solicit any public comment at this time.
Okay, if you're online and wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any public comment.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
Okay, give it another try unless somebody else. Same motion for contract 16-AP-018. the motion is to recommend to the Board of Supervisors non-renewal because of non-compliance to the uniform rules as stated on the April 29, 2025 60-day notice that was mailed to the property owner.
Any discussion on that item, that motion? And it does state, if we could state in the motion, it does state in the letter, but also that it was Uniform Rule 1-2.
Yep. So amended.
Dash 2.3.
Sorry, 1-2.3.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay,
So we'll do roll call.
Yep.
Royce Larson,
Aye.
sorry, I forgot. Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
aye.
David Lackey,
Aye.
and then Alex.
Aye.
And then vote carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, that takes us to, we've trailed item 5, and that takes us to new items number 6, and this is for the Sunstone Villa Farm Stay, and this is for contract number 77AP032, and the planner for this project is Francisco Vargas. I don't know if Francisco is here to join us today. This is for a farm stay. And the case number, it looks like, is TBD, but it's for a farm stay, and it's a 52-acre parcel, and it is contract number, I already read that into the record. So if we have an agent here today to present the case, or perhaps the planner, county planner, Francisco Vargas, give us an overview of the project, please.
Hi, Madam Chair. This is Gallery Macon.
Morning.
Morning. My apologies for being here at your commission again so soon. But this is for our farm stay application that I believe we had brought up, but we hadn't officially submitted our application until a few weeks ago. So hopefully this will be less complicated as our last ongoing eligibility case. But the application is for that villa to be used as a farm stay.
And we have before us an image here that we're zooming into. So the existing guest house to be converted to an ADU. Is that?
We're not going to be doing that at this time. We're just going to keep it as the guest house.
Okay.
And the owner would stay in one of the rooms of the villa while it's being rented out for the other rooms.
Okay, very good. And is that the area in red right there? Do you see that?
I'm not
Gallery?
able to see
Oh,
what you
okay.
guys are looking
What
at.
we're looking at? Okay.
Okay, now I am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, the highlighted in red is the existing residence.
So Gallery, this is David Lackey. I just have a question. So the start of the year, I guess in January, we took a motion on the application for the special events, and that I think, as I recall, the special events were going to occur utilizing the villa and the villa grounds. Could you describe how that is going to occur in relationship to also using the villa as a farm stay?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the special events is really only on the grounds. It's not using the villa itself. It's just the lawn area and like an area in front of the villa. And so, and then the special events permit is only for 12 events a year. So the villa won't be used as a farm stay during those 12 special events.
Okay, thank you.
We would
Just,
have included, sorry, we would have included this together, but they're two separate permit types. The farm stay is a zoning clearance under the Ag Enterprise Ordinance, and then our special events permit is a minor CUP that's just through the Ag policy for the residential area.
yeah, and as far as our uniform rules, so we had one farm stay through the AEO program on contracted land that we reviewed, and I think we'll walk through, I think, a reminder of at least the uniform rule requirements, but generally they were very straightforward and referred to compliance with the farm stay requirements in the zoning ordinance. And so that was, I just wanted to kind of touch base on a couple of those. And so I think you had clarified one of the questions. So one of the requirements for the farm stay is that there is 24-hour supervision provided on the premises, and that could be either by the owner, an ag employee, somebody that would be on the premises 24 hours. And then obviously that kind of raises the question, well, where would that person be? And so initially when we saw the sheet with the proposed ADU, we assumed that would be probably the location, but you're saying that the 24-hour supervision would be by the owner in the principal dwelling, one of the bedrooms in the principal dwelling. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Because the guest house was permitted as a guest house, there's no kitchen facilities, and to convert it, they'd have to put in kitchen facilities, and that's just not something they want to undertake right now. So they'll stay in the villa.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And then just tracking, and I'm sure you're on top of it, but one of the so the farm stay would be an eligible accommodation that would require the collection of transient occupancy tax. And so have you been in contact with the treasury tax collectors to set up that process to get the TOT certificate in place?
Yes, and they are waiting on our permit to be issued before they'll finalize that process.
Great, great, thank you. I don't have any other questions. I don't know if committee members do.
I guess just to follow up on since we last saw this, and it was recent, is there
Yes.
anything different from then to now? Or just,
No change right now.
thank you. No other questions for me.
I'll just quickly just read off the uniform rule requirements. So this is Rule 2-5 farm stays, and this was added by the board as part of adoption of the Ag Enterprise Ordinance amendments. It says a farm stay may be included as part of an agricultural operation on contracted land, provided all the following requirements are set forth below are met. Farm stay operation is located on and is part of a farm or ranch operation, is principally used for commercial ag production, which we determine this property is, and that the farm stay operation does not constitute the principal land use of the premises and is beneficial and inherently related to the farm or ranch operation. Under B, the farm stay operation is located on a premises of 40 acres or greater, which it is. This premises is 52 acres. C, the farm stay shall comply with all applicable regulations within the county zoning ordinance. Ordinances. And that would be ultimately determined as part of the application review by the planners. In order to preserve productive agricultural land, the farmstead development envelope shall minimize intrusion into agricultural areas and minimize barbell, peninsula, and finger type configurations. And then the farmstead operation is consistent with the compatibility guidelines set forth in section 2-1 of this rule and will not significantly compromise the long-term productive agricultural capability or natural resources on the premises or on other properties in the vicinity. So pretty, straightforward and has some common compatibility requirements of other uses.
Okay, just wanted to see if anyone here from the public who'd like to speak on this item. Thank you for the overview, David.
Okay, if you're online and wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand. We do not have any public comment.
Okay, and just Gilroy, any other input you'd like to provide to the committee before we move forward? Likely we're gonna do a motion soon.
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion from the members?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Mhm.
I just noticed, and just pointed out by Mr. Royce Larson here. I noticed that, and I just asked Gilroy, and she confirmed that the eligibility that we reviewed last time is, in my opinion, there's no changes, and so we've already addressed it. Yeah, and today, the item doesn't have any eligibility review for this item. Is that something that, I mean, doesn't make any difference. I think, like I said, Gilroy already confirmed the eligibility still was already addressed, and it's the same.
So you're pointing out, and it's a good one, it wasn't stated in the agenda.
On the
Yeah, is dropped. Typically, all of our agenda items have ongoing eligibility built into them. So this one did not.
I mean, it's a good thing. I think it's something that, we need to address on the other side to make sure that's a consistent thing, but it doesn't preclude us for including that in our review and in motion.
I agree.
But thank you for catching it, Royce.
Yeah. Royce was the one that caught it.
Yeah. We did have, and it's in the packet as well, from our last item when we had 2 actions taken, and one of them did address kind of that ongoing eligibility issue. So
Right.
it is addressed, but I don't know if we need to repeat that same for the record or at least reference the minutes.
I think that was going to be my
Okay.
suggestion as part of the motion, that we reference that because it's relevant.
Yes, yes. Okay, let's go ahead and do that, but that's a good catch. Thank you, Royce. That got skipped or missed when we reviewed the draft agenda. Thank you.
I'd make a motion that we find the request for a farm stay consistent with the uniform rules, including Uniform Rule 2-5. And that we find that contract 77 AP032 meets ongoing eligibility requirements. And as further stated in the APAC motion from May 8th, 2025, regarding ongoing eligibility and existing circumstances related to commercial ag production requirements.
Second that motion.
Okay, well,
Roll
we'll
call,
do roll
please.
call. Royce Larson,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey,
I-
and then Alex,
I,
and then vote carries 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Gilroy. Anything else for the committee or any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that takes us to item number 7, which is Calvacado 4 Ranch Trust Barn. This is for contract number 95 AP 25, and our county planner is Alejandro Jimenez. This is case number 25 LUP 135. And this is regarding the approval of a barn and also looking at ongoing eligibility of the contract. And it is a 32.74 acre parcel. And is anyone here? I see 2 people here.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We proceed. I
Yes.
just want to disclose that I did have communication with Mr. Joe Billings, the attorney for the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have communication with the applicant
None.
or the owner? Okay, very good. And go ahead, introduce yourself and welcome. No.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning. I'm Jennifer Siemens. I'm agent for the owner. It's Mr. Kevin O'Brien, and like you said, it's Calvacado Ranch. And as you mentioned, it's a 32.74 acre premises, and it's considered prime. And I understand this because we're surrounded by lots and lots of other ag contracts. So today we're here for your approval for proposed barn that would serve the ag operation. And also, we know that we need to get an assumption contract because the owner bought this property a few years ago, and we haven't done that part of the work yet. And then we wanted to talk to you about the acreage that is currently planted in avocados and what we're proposing to plant. So right now, there's almost 7 acres, from what I understand, that's planted out, and we're proposing to plant out an additional about 9.68 acres. That combination would bring us above the 50% requirement, the minimum requirement to have us be in compliance with the uniform rules. And we do have an exhibit. It's the last page of the plans that you guys have that we prepared specifically to show during this process with APAC. We have an exhibit that shows the non-ag development envelope and what's included in that and the area. And we're well under the 3% that we're limited to. It shows the pool, the landscaping, the parking, the house. And that comes out to 0.72 acres, and our 3% would allow us to have 0.98 acres, a little above that. Also, just to be clear that that exhibit with the house actually includes a small, well, it's in addition to the house that we haven't even proposed with a formal application with the county yet. But we wanted to just show that so you know in the future that's going to come up. We will still be at that. That includes our calculation today at 0.72 acres.
Thank you very much for that overview, Ms. Siemens. Yep, so let's see, these are great photos. Thank you for providing them in the packet. There was, okay. I think it was, yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting there.
Go straight to it.
It just crashes.
Mhm.
Really, yeah. They're just dense, I think, probably files. Any questions from committee members while we're scrolling through?
We go.
Okay, there we go.
So the planted acreage is shown, the area of the barn, and then the non-ag area where the house is, the red area.
I do have a question, Ms. Siemens, about the planted acreage. I was looking at the most recent aerial, and it seemed So our records, the assessor records show, and it was reported on the most recent Williamson Act questionnaire, that there were about 9 acres of planted avocados. But then I noticed on the aerial that there were about 2 acres. So that it makes sense that maybe now there's like about 7 acres
Mhm,
planted.
mhm.
But it seemed like on the aerial, it's hard to tell. It seemed like the 2 acres were stumped. So my question number one is to confirm if those are stumped trees, which may come back on to be productive again in like 5 years. And so, and then my second question is, you're proposing an additional 9 acres of avocados. Would that be in addition to the 9, including the 2 stumped, 2 acres that were stumped? Does that make
So
sense?
My understanding is that we have planted 6.83 now, and we're adding 9.68 altogether. But I thought you might have some questions specifically about the plantings. So we have Ben Zanger, who represents Sierra Pacific Farms, who manages the ag operation. So he can speak to that more clearly, I'm sure, than I can.
And then I also did want to make a note that Daniel is online and he had raised his hand. Is he the owner?
No,
Oh, the architect.
I'm agent, architect, for the owner, just here on call in case there's any questions related to the land use permit for the barn and structures involved with this review. So, thank you.
In terms of the trees, there was a prune done about last August or so, in which, yeah, approximately an acre or 2 was pruned. So yeah, you are correct in that assumption. So those trees will be coming back, yes.
Okay. So you're leaving those 2 acres to come back. They're
Yeah, they'll be coming back.
not going to be
Yeah, no,
pulled.
it's just a prune. So on the Google Earth, the canopy won't appear as dense. But yes, those trees are still alive and will
Okay.
come back, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So question for the proposed new plantings. Obviously, you've kind of got a planting plan of sorts. Have you purchased, or is there a purchase order for the avocado trees and the kind of timing of when those will be installed?
Yeah, so typically new plantings go in late winter, early spring. We will be able to get an order set and ready for that time frame, and would be able to roll it out as soon as possible.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I remember a couple years ago, there was a big lag when.
There
a lot
is
of the
still a big
fires-
lag, I
Yeah.
believe. Are you purchasing the trees from
I'm not sure of the direct nursery that we're able to get them from because we
Brokaw?
typically,
or-
Brokaw is our typical vendor,
Yeah.
but we do go from multiple nurseries. So,
Yeah,
wherever we can get them from, we're gonna pull them from.
okay, because I just talked to somebody the other day that was saying they're 3 years out, but I don't know.
Yeah,
if that's-
and I'm not sure on the direct time frame for what we have specifically lined up, but we have trees on backstock essentially where we've ordered in advance for different ranches where we.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just sort of the question, so the southern portion of the, I guess, gold area here to be planted, looking on kind of just Google Earth, I mean, it looks like there's quite extensive chaparral in that area currently. And not to get into your business plan, but is part of the increase to try to meet the 50% requirement in the uniform rules, or that's just part that aligns with your business plan to add that additional acreage?
Well, adding the additional acreage is beneficial because the trees and specifically for the climate in the area, it's conducive to high yield crops. So it's just productive to plant more acreage. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was probably more on that just because, I mean, the 50% of the 32 acres, you would look at, well, do you have 16 or close to 16 acres planted? But the rules allow for reductions of that because of sensitive resources or steep slopes, and obviously those exist throughout the property. And so there would be the flexibility to address that 50% and at a lower acreage planted based on those constraints. So I was just trying to see what the balance was. It was both a business and to try to strive towards meeting that 50% requirement when there is some flexibility based on resource constraints to accommodate for that. So,
Have there been trees in those steeper slopes in the past?
There have been, yeah. We have ranches
Historically?
with steep slopes, so it's typical. It's kind of tough. You can estimate and you can predict that you can, and then obviously when it comes time, you can't. But we think that it's feasible.
Okay. Yeah, that just increases, I guess, cost to harvest and,
Yeah, exactly.
and your liability
Yeah.
and. Mhm.
Input costs for
So you oversee the ranch, your ranch manager
Yeah.
for, okay,
Just ranch
Sierra Pacific, okay. And what's the use of the barn going to be? Just,
for us. We'd be able to stage just some equipment that we keep on the property for us.
currently you store it someplace else, or?
We
is it-
usually typically bring it in and out
Mhm.
and have a location where we store stuff.
Okay,
there's a ranch office space, it looks like, as part of the barn, or like there's some kind of office space?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's currently no ag storage facility of any kind on the
Yeah,
property.
I say we should store stuff. It's typically just left out.
yeah, and which isn't good, yeah.
For the new plantings, what varietal are you going to be planting?
Haas.
Haas. I did have just a separate question because I didn't think to look for it, but assuming, because I know that part of the barn, there is a restroom in there. So assuming you're going to have some type of leach field or septic system, I didn't see where that was located on the site plan. Is there appropriate page to look at?
Yes, let's look.
Danny's going to let us know.
Yeah, it's just south of the barn, downhill slope of the barn. There's a little bit of a clear area between the chaparral before it gets too steep. So
I'm not sure if it's shown on this plan. It's probably on another
I
site
can point
plan.
it out, but we don't have the plans finalized, but this is the location that they would be in. They're like below the barn and in the clearing between the oaks.
And is that sort of the close to final configuration of the fire turnaround?
Yes, we've reviewed this with Summerlin Fire District, and they are they have approved the access plan, the turnaround there. It's pretty steep. The existing road is pretty steep, but they were okay with it. And given this area here is kind of what they wanted when if a fire vehicle were to come down that steep road, they would need a place to turn around. There's just enough.
Yeah, I think I forget one of the sheets that kind of looked at some hose length of different locations. So
Yes.
I'm assuming, and maybe Jennifer can confirm, just because it's not a habitable structure, there isn't any additional water source that needs to be provided. They're just relying on tanker water that might help for fire suppression.
Right. I have not had that specific discussion. Danny might be able to answer that better
Yeah,
than me.
the existing cistern has enough capacity to meet the fire department standards for that potential high demand, the high flow, for that duration. So
Okay, so there would be a connection to that as part of
Yes.
this? Okay.
yes. And it has the gravity. it's above this directly, so it has the gravity that it needs to operate without a pump, so.
Do you have, like, if you have ordered the trees and what have you, do you have copies of receipts or anything that you can provide? I mean, usually we ask that when it's, um, you know, yeah.
I'm typically not in charge of the tree orders.
Uh-huh.
But we could be able to go through and rummage some tree orders. I don't, yeah, I just don't personally have access.
Okay. Yeah, because typically when we are in a discussion of just making sure that they're meeting ongoing eligibility, the minimum number of acres planted. If there's additional planting, usually we ask for proof of that. People can provide either a planting plan, and I see that it's in the maps, but something just to support that. And also we ask for receipts since it's, several years out maybe from providing those. Maybe you've already purchased them and they're going in soon, but something just a write up saying when you think the trees will be planted, how many, the acreage, variety, and any receipts that you have. I don't know if other committee members have comments on that or.
Yeah. Yeah, the irrigation plan should be in there, the design.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, Ben, it's not in there, but we have.
Oh,
it.
yes.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
see. Okay.
Maybe just a follow-up question on the timing. So with this additional planting areas, is it going to be phased in different blocks over different time periods? Or is it going to be all installed at one time?
Should just be one time.
Okay. And so I guess, confirming that, as I mentioned, a lot of that southern area has a lot of chaparral and that chaparral is not going to be removed until right before you're going to be ready to plant. I mean, it's not going to be removed in exposed soil and erosion. I mean, there's going to be timed with when you're ready to start planting and putting it in the irrigation.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I'm just thinking that we do a motion. Yeah, I was thinking contingent upon planner verification of having a planting plan and receipts. So we don't hold the project up.
I was just thinking of a final comment just from an assessor's viewpoint. If you end up removing additional trees, I know that you just confirmed that there were more than 1 acre that was pruned and stumped. The trees are taxed, and if they're removed, we can remove the taxable value. So just a comment to, for future questionnaires when you get them, to report if you're removing it's a benefit to you, so that we can remove them from the tax roll. And then the new ones, they're exempt. When they're planted, they're exempt for 5 years, and then they become taxable on the fifth year. They're taxable. Just a comment there to let you know how.
Just curious about that. So, but if you stump the trees, which it can take, years for that to, for the growth to return. So is that also exempt or do
Under
you still
the,
tax the stumped?
Right. So we still use the 5-year exemption period.
Oh, for stumped
For
trees.
stumped
So,
trees.
yeah,
We
so if you have
remove them.
stumped trees, maybe include that in your annual report
Right.
to the assessor, and then that might help your bottom line.
Yep. We remove them. I'm gonna remove the ones that you just confirmed were stumped. And you get a little time period, like exemption period of 4 years with no taxes. And then on the 5th year, they become taxable again. Just,
Like a fallow period kind of.
Exactly.
It's good to know.
So Sergi, did they submit the most recent?
Yes, so I had conversations with Mr. Joe Billings, and he made sure to provide that. And we also discussed the assumption of the contract.
That's what I was going to ask Jennifer, that, are you in the process of submitting the application for the assumption of the contract?
Yes and no. I know we have to do it. We're going to do it. I was going to ask you, do we need to come back again? Okay, we just do the paper.
Yeah, the assumption of the contract is just a straight, well, it's not straightforward because you have to pay a fee for it, but it's just an application that you submit to planning and development, and they'll process it and
Okay.
have county council review it with the owner.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can do all that with Alex as we're going through this.
Great,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Okay, I just wanted to, before we take a motion, wanted to see if there's anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this item.
If you're online and wish to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Not seeing any public comment.
Okay, very good. All right. Take it back to the committee for any more discussion or any motion. And any motions I would suggest contain one that the assumption, and two, the proof of any planting plan and or receipts supporting the expansion of the orchard.
So I'll make a motion that APAC find the request for the barn consistent with the uniform rules, and that contract 95 AP 25 meets ongoing eligibility contingent upon owners submitting information regarding a planting plan and verification of purchase of additional avocado trees, either through purchase order or receipts. And with the understanding that the owner will be submitting application to assume the existing ag preserve contract.
I second that motion.
We'll do a roll call. Royce Larson,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Alex. And vote carries 5-0.
Okay, very good. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming today, and thank you for all the helpful information. Good
Thank
luck
you.
with your project. Okay, and do we want to turn off that microphone there? Thank you. We got it, thank you.
There we go.
That was more for Teresa. Okay, so that brings us to item number 5, which is APAC Chair. This item went before the committee months ago. I do not have in the packet. At that time, I had presented the group with information about just historical account of my time spent on as being chair. We decided at that time it was best to trail this discussion item or action item later in the year, because at the time we were going to the board with the Williamson Act update, and we just thought it would be better at that time to wait. So we already went to the board with our Williamson Act update and bringing it back to the committee. And we did at some point discuss if any of the other departments, we kind of exempted Royce because as just a representative from the UC, it makes more sense it would be other departments willing to consider a rotational arrangement with chairship. That was one thing we talked about. My understanding was that there was not it was not something that either the assessor's office felt it was feasible for their department, nor the Public Works Department surveyor's office did not feel that was feasible either. And planning development, as I recall, it was something that might be considered, but, or was it a no? I wasn't sure. You are technically on the agenda, you're considered the co-chair, so.
Yeah, so previously, and I think I reaffirmed, at least with my manager, that planning and development would not be opposed to a rotating chairship, and likely with those kind of, the last two standing would, appear to be a rotating chairship between the Ag Commissioner's Office representative and the Planning Development Department representative.
Okay,
And then the other, I think, part of that I mentioned previously, that one option is to also continue to explore opportunities. Because obviously one of the concerns, is budgeting and costs associated with participation in the program. And since planning and development currently does provide support for sort of administration of the program and the agendas and everything, whether or not there's some additional responsibilities that the chair would be doing as far as certified mail and other types of things that maybe we can look at, and whether or not those could be incorporated into the current responsibilities from planning and development admin support. I would just keep, I think that's
yes.
out there for continued
Okay,
conversation.
very
between the
good.
departments.
Yeah, and that, I would be very amenable to that. Some additional support with the letters that currently they go to county council for consideration, but they are generally a form letter. Some are a little different, but they do go to council for consideration before I send them out. But any assistance with sending those letters out would be much appreciated. Yeah, that would be terrific.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a little information that I want to share. I did some investigating through computer. Um, um, I'll make a disclaimer. I did not personally contact the different counties to confirm if the information I found was true. But for in general, I found that for most of the counties throughout the state, the APACs are most commonly ran by by P&D, by the planning department, with the Ag Commissioner's Office being their support, or for many counties too, the Commissioner's Office is the one that leads these meetings. Interesting information I want to share. So I confirmed with San Luis Obispo, Planning chairs the committee, Fresno County, Department of Public Works. Now, this is actually maybe Alex's department. There and the Planning Department, they run the show. Sonoma County, they have a department called Permit Sonoma. I think it's their land use or their land department. Ventura County, this is the interesting one. I found that Ventura County is actually chaired by one of the members of their Board of Supervisors. And they rotate the chairship among the Board of Supervisors. And so so it was interesting to me that for Ventura County, their Board of Supervisors is one of the members for APAC. Let's see, other counties, Monterey, the committee is not chaired by specific department, but administrative and staffing duties are done by planning and the commissioner's office. So yeah, Kern County Planning Department. Anyway, just some information I found on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that also dovetails into, hasn't been any specific direction from the board in terms of how other counties do it versus how the county of Santa Barbara has historically done it. But as you had mentioned, some of the research, surprisingly, when I had done similarly, Sonoma, Napa, some counties that we think are probably more like us, they don't have an ag advisory or ag preserve advisory committee. A lot of that is done by the planning department in terms of the review of new contracts and determination of ongoing eligibility, et cetera. So that's a different concept. But yeah, it's good. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the Ventura County situation with the actual board members rotating. I guess a part of this conversation of rotating chairship is also, is it then just that the other department is the vice chair and we continue to flip-flop, or would we want to integrate some of our other representatives into the vice chair position? Which really functionally is just chairing the meeting if chair isn't available.
And we did talk a little bit about that, as I recall, not specifically rotating, but we can certainly visit that again. But I think that's an interesting idea. So it would be almost like rotation would be for the chairship would be the planning department, and the ag department rotating possible chairship. But then the vice chair would just come in if perhaps the chair can't meet. I guess it'd be just to run the meeting the day of. So there's not additional administrative duties, but as a representative. So I didn't know if I had thought I heard Michael address that head on and say he did not want the assessor to even be chairing the
Even
meeting the day of. That's what I recalled.
I remember that.
Yeah.
From his public comment.
And any thoughts from the Public Works? Would your
Yeah.
be amenable?
I did not bring this in conversation with my director. The information I got from him, not in any written form, is that he's opposing, taking me the chair duties.
Yeah.
I don't know about, vice chair. I probably would need to discuss that again,
Okay.
see if that would be.
I think that would be, it's just something just to pinch it for the committee if the chair couldn't make it. I guess, or the vice chair, right? Or are you thinking just a way to spread the love?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to, have this, complex,
Yeah.
check system. It may just be more efficient, just whoever isn't the chair, the department is the vice chair, and we can keep it that way.
Yeah. And I have a backup. I guess that's because the slot to me goes to the department. But I don't know if you have a backup person, David, currently, but I do. So
Technically do, but
okay. Yeah, I technically do as well. So if I can't make the chair or make the meeting, I first go to, or was, it's been a while, but I'd go to Matt Mayton. But if we want to do it, have it set up differently where it would be, I would be your backup if you were chair, you'd be my backup if I was chair. Just thinking.
I mean, I think kind of that's the way, even like when you were not here and Matt is here, I think I've kind of
Stepped in.
stepped in to run the meeting. So, yeah, I mean, I think that probably would
Yeah.
work best, if then the vice chair, which is going to be one of us, would run the meeting.
Okay. Okay. That would be a really interesting idea with the chair, vice chair, having at least the planning department there. Would we want to have any additional, I guess how to proceed? Would we look at having on a calendar year, or every year switching over, or every 2 years, or what do you think?
I mean, most committees do it annually.
Huh?
So maybe it's, at the first meeting of the calendar year, we go through, we agendize the nomination of the chair and vice chair.
So in December.
January.
Oh, in January. Okay.
And then, yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with just annual
Okay.
process.
That sounds good to me.
And then I think we would, if wherever we land today, I guess that's a question for you, but presumably Apex would come up with a recommendation and forward that to the department heads
Okay.
of our respective departments for their consideration, and
Mhm.
once we hear back from them, then we can
Mm-hmm.
report to the committee.
Okay. So the motion would be made in a sense to, for the representatives for planning development and for, the ag commissioner's office to,
Have a
Rotating
rotating chair
chairship.
and vice
Mhm.
chairship,
mm-hmm,
and that would be set at the first meeting in January of each calendar year. And that we continue to discuss opportunities for administrative responsibilities and costs.
okay. And I would second that. Is that a motion?
That's the motion.
Okay, very good. And I would second that. Any further discussion? Okay.
I'm sorry, I think I missed it. So you made a motion and it's seconded. So the motion is to,
Motion is to, the APAC is making
Rotate
a
it.
recommendation to the Ag Commissioner and Planning Development Director that APAC is recommending that we establish a rotating chair and vice chairship that would be between the two departments. And then that would occur at the beginning of the first meeting in January of each year. And then we continue to talk between the departments of opportunities to better align the administrative costs of the chair and current administrative roles for planning and development in support of the committee.
Okay.
Something like that.
good.
So maybe take a roll call? Unless there's further discussion? Do I have to put, anyone from the public who'd like to speak on this item?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, close public comment.
We'll do roll call. Royce Larson,
Aye.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
And then Alex.
Aye.
Then vote carries 5-0.
Okay, very good. Thank you. No, forgot what my name was. Okay, so then, very good. Thank you for that discussion and support. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. Just wanted
And
to.
thank you guys for doing this. This is appreciated. I just want to say that you guys should get a pay raise and hopefully the next paycheck.
Maybe not happening with our budget, but thank you. I just wanted as a report to the committee members that we did finish our published the 2024 crop livestock report. I brought hard copies for everyone. Unfortunately, some were only in Spanish, but I will bring additional copies for Royce and any other English copies that I think I gave one to council. But it is just a few highlights. Wanted to mention that it did cross over to the $2 billion mark this year in 2024. And it was a 7% increase in gross value. So all the crop report values, it's officially called the crop and livestock report, used to be called the production ag report, I think. But this year, one of the couple of takeaways are that, strawberries still remain our #1 crop. Nursery products, which includes cut flowers, got jumped up to item #2. And notably, wine grapes are significantly, the values have gone down. And that's kind of, we've looked at other counties as too, so that's pretty consistent. Vegetable crops continue to, they decreased in acreage, but they did do an increase in value. There's some value added for, I know broccoli and cauliflower, just they're doing quite well. And I guess one of the highlights too is that berries, I think it was specifically blackberries, are doing very well. There's been a lot of genetic, like cross hybrids, new genetic varieties out there. They're just larger. They're very good quality berries coming out of our county. So that's been a good increase as well. So overall for cattle did make the top, let's see, livestock was in 10. So number 10. So it was a good year. There was rain this year, which is always very good for the cattle. And I don't know if, Royce, you have anything to add to any of that, but.
Oh, it's interesting though, San Luis cattle are usually like third or fourth.
Wow.
But there's more livestock there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just to, because that was a question that I was going to ask Royce, is that, I mean, we've all seen the cost of beef in the supermarkets, and I just read some article but conversely, even, I mean, across the United States, just the amount of cattle is at one of the, low points in many decades. And so what are some of the economics that, I mean, you would think if I'm from a business perspective, if I can get a high return on something, I'm gonna grow more of it or have more cattle. But what are some of the realities?
That's a very good question. And my input on that is it's hard to build a cattle herd. And our weather, we get a wet year, then we get a dry year, then we get a wet year. They just start building the herds and they have to sell them off. And they're just hit time after time after time. That's why it's so low right now. Numbers is because of the still trying to recover from 2014, that huge drought. In the foreseeable future is 1 or 2 wet years, 4 or 5 dry, 1 or 2.
It's not consistent, which doesn't give them confidence going into the year. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The alternatives would be to move from a traditional cow-calf to a stocker operation. But even with a stocker, you have to purchase cattle in the fall, so you have to predict what the winter will be. And you're getting a lot of those from Mexico, and with the border things going on, it's all up in the air. It's chaotic.
This is the first year you guys include all this information on cannabis?
No, this is our second year. I was going to mention that next, is that cannabis technically is not considered a crop per se. And it's also, this is a USDA effort, and the feds don't still recognize it. So we don't include it in the total values overall, but we do include information about cannabis. In the past, we've done little inserts separate from the crop report, but yeah, this year we did include what we can. It's hard to get in the information. Yeah, not every operator is forthcoming or has the time or interest. It's always been a battle with any kind of survey you have.
We know exactly what you mean.
Yes, it's if you're getting more than 50%, you're doing pretty well. But it is one of our efforts in the department is to really reach out to other Spanish speakers. So that's why our commissioner is committed to providing. This is really, I think, our second year maybe of printing the crop report in Spanish and English. So we do fewer printed copies. We're doing a few more this year, but there's also a lot of artificial intelligence images. So we've typically spent quite a bit of time in our crop report gathering royalty-free images, but this year we did rely more on AI for that. So that's been a change. And we also highlighted quite a bit our Master Gardener and UC Cooperative Extension partnerships. Shannon Klisch is our UC CE director, and so we're strengthening our partnerships with the UC. Yeah, and that's it. Unless there's any questions.
Yeah, just I think it's really just interesting including or highlighting the exports and seeing how many different countries we do export to, and then the mix of different top products to different countries.
Yeah,
It's just-
yes, it is, and that's going to be changing quite a bit. Our main exporter was to Canada, strawberries to Canada, believe it or not, and strawberries to Mexico. But that was because of the exports are based on the number of phytosanitary certificates we issue. And so if they have dropped requirements or a certain, a concern about a pest, it will influence whether or not we issue a phytosanitary certificate. And Canada has dropped its main issue, which was a light brown apple moth. So
There's not a different way of tracking the number of cases or volume of something you.
no, it's
by the.
do it by the number of certificates issued, which is what the data that we have. So yeah, it's kind of a snapshot.
And then just to clarify, I think I kind of understand, but, so nursery is our number 2 product.
Mm-hmm.
Is a large component of that really sort of I don't know the exact term, but the seed starts or things like for commercial, we have a lot of
Plantel
nurseries that they kind of.
They do
grow
transplants.
seedlings and transplants for commercial.
Yeah, they do transplants. That's in the nursery products, and cut flowers are usually together. Even though it says nursery, yeah, it includes both cut flowers and also container nursery stock, and also either field planted flowers or field planted nursery stock as opposed to in a container, and then also those transplants. Yep.
So like field flowers, like in Lompoc or gladiolas and orchids.
Lavender sometimes is cut for, cut flowers. Okay. Anything else from other committee members?
Just added, it kind of goes along a little bit with your crop report and stuff and the master gardeners and the university programs, but we got an email yesterday from Glenda Humiston, our vice president over Ag and Natural Resources. The SNAP Ed program federally has been cut. Here it's called CalFresh. It's going to mean about 130 people in the university will be gone along with that program. So they're trying to figure things out. I don't know where it'll end up, but that was the gist of the email.
Wow, that's a significant change.
Is that UC?
Yeah,
Yeah, you see.
UC system?
and that's across 130 across the state.
130 across the state, and it could mean, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone that's in the CalFresh program. If they have seniority and can do a different position, they can take seniority and
But someone else gets.
someone else will get axed.
Yeah.
What that might mean in terms of myself and Matthew Shapiro is it's looking bleak to get us replaced.
Is Matthew still with the UC?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
He left UC quite a while ago,
Yeah.
and
But his position, you're saying?
his position, correct.
Mm-hmm.
And however, we did just bring on board a new disaster resilience advisor. She just started this month. She's headquartered in the San Luis office, covering San Luis, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties.
And Maurice, is that disaster resilience in the context of crop and food security and being able to have that?
Yes, 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 and no, and no, and no.
Pretty vague.
It's something new. We've never had this type of position. It covers all those kinds of things. It could be fires, it could be drought, it could be the power plant, nuclear power plant, it could be any or all of those things. My encouragement, contact them, tell them what your needs are. Because she's just starting. She
Yeah.
needs to build her program. Let her know what's needed. And
What was her name?
Lillian, and I apologize,
I can find out too.
yeah,
Yeah.
X.
But she's out of
Out of San
Office.
Luis.
San Luis office.
Yeah, because we share regions. I think Ventura, San Luis and Santa Barbara are now one region.
Yeah, I'll probably mention it too, because one of our project assignments in long-range planning is working on the looking at climate resiliency and developing a climate adaptation plan. And I'm not sure how, I know they're looking at different opportunities and for improving resilience within Santa Barbara County in response to different threats. And so it'll be good to get in touch with that person. So,
Yeah.
Thank you for that update.
Okay, are you guys ready for some numbers? So we just completed and we closed the assessor's office I'm talking about. Assessors closed the roll. And I have some final response rate for this year. It was 66%, which is pretty much in line with what it's been the last few years. So 66%. Of that, 68% responders for I don't want to say non-prime, but non-tree-vine properties, people that are specifically just grazeland or open land, and 61% for properties with trees and vines, with orchards or vineyards. So the response rate is a little, so just to, I guess this is just to point out that the response rate is a little lower from people that we actually need the information from. Specific information.
might be hard. Well, I mean, they should know what's on the,
Yeah,
Those are permanent crops.
right. Permanent crops, exactly.
So the tree and vine doesn't include, the 61% was from tree and vine, and the 68 you said was for cattle and row crops, or?
And row crops. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And another, I think this is more of a question for the committee. I was watching the report, the presentation to the Board of Supervisors, and they mentioned having an interest in possibly going, looking at people that haven't responded over the last maybe 10 years or maybe even 5 years. I'm ready to provide that information. If you guys want that information, I can provide the list of the contracts that we haven't received a questionnaire from over the last few years. I would probably suggest that we do an action. Maybe I don't know if this is something. Well, we don't have to decide today, but something to think about to provide to the Board of Supervisors. I don't know if this is something that we need to do further action on. I don't even know what we would be doing. But I can provide it.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, Sergio. And my takeaway from that meeting was it was just an overview of the Williamson Act, and there may be further direction down the line, but I didn't hear any specific action items for the committee. So I guess it's sort of maybe waiting to hear further instruction.
I guess what I can provide today is, for example, the non-responders over the last 10 years, about 70 contracts. We've never received any response from them over the last 10 years, and 5 years. Over the last 5 years, we have, give me a second here, 170 contracts that have been responded over the last 5 years.
And, mhm.
Contracts.
And the no response, what happens is I understand the assessor sends a one letter out. Is there follow-up letters?
No, not at this time. We don't
Mhm.
have a follow-up. Just so many things going on at the
Yeah,
last.
and I remember that kind of just there were questions about how does the process occur? Is there follow-up letters? Is there phone calls or on that?
No, we don't do that additional
Okay.
outreach. We just don't have time or resources to do that.
Remind me of the timing of when you send out the surveys.
So the survey goes out in the middle of January because we need to collect all the information. It needs to be, the review of the information needs to be completed before roll close so that we can capture what we're going to be taxing. We give them, I think, 2 months, a 2-month period to respond. We say January, and typically we say by the 1st of March or end of March, I think. I'm not sure. But we can continue receiving the questionnaires, and we actually still receive them up until we close the roll, which is, June.
So what information do you use in the role? The last one that was submitted or?
For the roll, for the
production?
non-responders?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we determine the values based on the people that responded. And so
Extrapolate.
we extrapolate.
Extrapolate, okay.
Yeah.
Or interpolate in that case.
And we come up with benchmark values for each planting type for avocado.
So do you think there are errors like of systematic nature, under or overestimating in that way, or does it do the zero sum eventually? Of what would you receive?
We don't know whether we're over taxing or under taxing. I don't know if that was your question, but we're estimating, and the law allows us to do estimates. Now we try to be consistent, and we try to do the same value throughout the county for each particular land use type. But yeah, we do what we can with the information that we do receive. And so the lower the response rate, the more
Possible error.
Yeah, exactly.
So in a situation where, use avocados as an example, where the number of trees they have has meaning, but you have to, you may use the standard value for Haws, but do you look at aerial photos and try to come up with, it looks like they've got 200 trees, and you use that value?
It's the same old value.
It's the same number of trees. So we go by what they report. So if they tell us they have, like, for instance, we closed the roll with 9 acres for this last item that we just heard from. Our records show that they had 9 acres of avocados. We didn't know that they had stumped 2 acres and that they only have 6 acres or 7 acres planted. So they're being taxed on the number of acres that we had. Because the questionnaire just came in, they were getting ready for this meeting.
But if they've never responded to
They never
many
respond.
trees, what do you do?
We just keep the same from the last time they reported. And it just keeps on
potentially they could have been a grazing operation 10 years ago, but in the interim, they've planted something and haven't reported it. They're getting assessed on the
Exactly.
grazing value.
So that's the concern, that our records are not, as up to date as they should be, especially when it comes to taxable items like avocados.
And I know, and we had talked about it as an opportunity, and it's obviously up to your department to pursue that, but just one, in anticipation of next year's rollout, it might be good to, like, at the end of the year in November or December, attend the Ag Advisory Committee, because we have representative of all the commodity groups, give them the information, why it's important, and they could then be the messengers at their individual commodity groups or newsletters or whatever. It might just be another avenue where they could help to spread the importance to their members.
Thank you. It's going to be particularly a little more difficult this year. I'll mention to the entire committee now. I was mentioning to you, David, that we had a lot of people leave the assessor's office, and so we lost. In particular, I lost 2 ag appraisers. So I'm getting 2 brand new ag appraisers into my crew. So yeah, it's going to be hard to take.
And it might be something that, also the Ag Commissioner's Office and P&D, because we're regular attendees at those. I mean, we could help to convey the message. And so if it's a timing of having staff or personnel, maybe we can coordinate and just have something agendized with information from the assessor's office and the timing. And so I would just keep it, obviously it's up to your department, but there might be ways where other departments can assist getting that message out with you.
That's what we do when we have crop report coming up. We do, the first time is a phone call, the second time is an email, the third time's an email, and then we also go to the AAC and talk about the importance of crop report. And because it's critical if they want that information to be accurate, it's used by planners all the time. Land use decisions are made on crop report. So it's like trying to find a way to show how it is important for accuracy and also their insurance, because
Do you do an automated, or do you have just people?
people calling. Yep.
That's
People that know them, that know the person. We don't choose
so
anybody.
it's not people from your department. It's
No,
not
it is
you.
from our department.
Okay.
People that know those particular growers will call those growers, because if you just have a random person call, they probably won't
They
take
won't.
it as much as, this is Stephanie, you've seen me out there as an inspector, and, like that. More of a personal connection. Thank you for that update. I did want to mention one other thing. Just sort of thinking about, one of the cases that came to us before us today was the Rancheria case, where we went forward with a kind of trying to make a correction. We've had a few other cases like this. What we have been doing is, Sergio, when we have a potential inconsistency or a potential non-compliance with somebody who has a split ownership, he will email me, I will write the letter, and at the same time, we put it on the agenda. And I'm wondering what committee members think of actually could we put it on the agenda first without doing the letter?
It's a discussion item. I
Yeah,
think we did that a couple.
as a
times.
discussion item, because I'm just wondering if that would be a good way to move forward on some of these, given maybe it's a unique circumstance. We want to know if this is something we want to go after, if we want to start, because anything that we write a letter for will, it goes on the agenda. And is that something that maybe we want to do that instead and work out some of these kinks before I just shoot off a letter and then there's some complexity we didn't factor in or weren't aware of? I'm
I
just
would be okay with that. I think I can do the item for the agenda as a discussion item only. And then at that time, you'll become aware
Yeah.
of what's coming and then.
And
we'll do the
explain it a little
letter
bit
and
more.
I can
Mhm.
explain it to you and this last one I just sent you, last week? I think it was already a discussion item that came last month, but I missed the meeting last month in June. I was talking to Brett Jones, and this how it came up. Um, Anyway, so this last one, they
Yeah.
already had a discussion, I think,
Oh,
in
okay.
June. So
Mhm.
they're aware of what they're gonna do. I just wanted to make sure that, so that we don't miss it, that it was official.
Hmm. No, I don't think we talked about that one as, and I don't know if we would put it as a discussion item, because if it's to send a letter, we would,
Right.
wouldn't we
So
put it as an action item?
I think it should be an action
Yeah.
item now.
Okay.
But going forward, I'm okay with that. If you guys want me to do that, I can, before sending, because initially I was putting the item as an action item. This is years ago. And then we decided, oh, wait a minute, you weren't ready for the action. The committee wasn't ready for the action. So we decided at some point to send you, Stephanie, the heads up first.
Okay.
And then, so that's what I've been doing since. But now we can go back and I can put the item on the agenda, but not as an action item, just as a discussion first. And then we can go from there.
And that's what maybe counts out. I think Stephanie, that was the same question I had, is that if we have something on a discussion and, some we may think, yeah, it's a good idea to then go to the next step and send a letter, some we may not. But if we think collectively that we should have the chair send a letter, is that an action, council, that we would need that should be done as an agendized item, or do we still have the flexibility?
Tyler, did you have any input on that?
It's honestly up to the committee. I mean, both, it's kind of one half dozen the other. I mean, you send the letter first, you send the letter after the action.
But if you put it on the agenda as just a discussion item and the decision is to have the chair send us a notice to appear letter, is that a better way to go? Can we do that?
Have we gone beyond discussion?
Oh, yeah.
Is it something?
Yeah, if we decide to go ahead and have the chair send the letter as a result of it just coming as a discussion item, will that present a problem?
Yeah, the action would be better, but the action itself would just be that the director would send the letter.
Yeah, that's the resulting action, but we don't make a motion. Is that a
Right.
problem?
The motion would not, or there wouldn't be anything about eligibility and all those sort of things. We're discussing it for the purpose
Or
of
just
the letter.
administrative
Yeah,
step to continue. So.
correct.
Yeah,
So
is that
just
okay?
be the wording of the agenda, yeah.
Oh, okay. So we could do it as a discussion item. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Can you put those 3 on there? There's 3 now, right? No, there's 3. 1 and 2 older ones. I'll send them to you.
Okay, send them.
All right.
Remind me.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Thank you for talking about that.
Just a question to Sergio. So now that the tax rolls are closed and end of summer, will we be getting the 2025 report?
Right. Yeah, I have it on my calendar. I'll get started on that report very soon.
Okay, great.
And you guys can update it on the websites.
And I think Teresa had some information. I know we had requested at least to explore some additional alternative meeting dates if there becomes a point where we think we need to manage workflow on agendized items and have additional meetings. And so.
So I did have a sit down with David, and different options would be using the 3rd floor conference room, using the ag conference room, the one I believe we utilized last time, or kind of keeping an eye on the rest of the year, see how it goes, and determining then if we should select a different day of the week or a different date so we could schedule it for the upcoming year.
So just to provide additional, that last kind of option before the start of each year, David Villalobos will look at all of the calendars for the different committees and set those. And so that's probably, if we're looking at particularly for something in this room, that would probably be the more appropriate time. And so I know we had a very big spike last meeting, but I think that was sort of an anomaly, and not sure if, the AEO applications will start to spike, but it sounds like we have a little bit of time and flexibility to keep tracking this, and maybe we can revisit whether or not we, even if we have a good balance for the rest of the year, maybe sometime in October, November, we can just talk more about, with hearing support of whether or not we want to entertain trying to, have an alternative meeting date or time for our regular meeting.
All right, sounds good. Any other reports, discussion items? Okay, we adjourn the meeting. It is 11:16 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you all.